you really need to rise up.
For some Western medias, they even attack those who tell the truth.
We need to expose who are behind them. You need to tell the audience what exactly is the reality.
You have witnessed the ups and downs of China-US ties.
We will never become part of the United States, and the United States will never become part of China.
Dr. Cao Zhikai, we know each other for quite a long time, and once you said you are pretty polite and gentle on many media and on the seminars, but you also said you are getting more harsh right now, especially when doing some interviews with the media. What happened actually?
Thank you very much for having me. Modesty and humility are two virtues very much valued in the Chinese culture. I think we all need to be very modest and very humane in dealing with people and whenever we talk about particular issues. However, in my recent media encounters over the recent years, I think there has been a very harsh condemnation or criticism or distortion of facts about China to such an extent that you really need to rise up to the occasion to say the right thing, to debunk all these fabrications about the realities about China. I think the fabrications and the distortion of facts about China are driven by some evil desire. They want to deny the people's right to know the realities in China, and they want to distort the realities in China so that they can achieve their ulterior motives. What is their ulterior motive? I think their ulterior motive is to deny Chinese people their right to development and to try to throw China down, humiliate China, and to deny the people in the world their right to know the realities in China. For example, they talk about China rearmament and try to pose the threat to our neighboring countries. We altogether have 14 land neighboring countries and we have about 6 maritime neighboring countries. China wants to be friends with all our neighbors as well as almost up to about 200 countries in the world. We do not want to be enemies with any other countries in the world. And that is the reality. China is a major force for peace. And I think I cannot tolerate anyone who claim that China is hostile to any other country, either our neighboring countries or otherwise.
So you talk about these harsh conditions on the media and actually on the Twitter and on also social media. I can also feel the same environment. But we know for some Western medias, sometimes they have different understandings about China, and sometimes they even attack those who tell the truth. Do you think this kind of behavior is like ideology driven, or simply they just don't have too much understanding about China?
Well, for those who condemn China, I think you can divide them into several different categories. One are paid to do so. Who paid them? You need to figure out, who are those financiers or bankrollers behind these fabricators.
They're funders.
Yeah, they're funders, they're sponsors. The other one is simply they don't really know. They have never been here. They haven't talked to Chinese people. They don't understand China's history, China's reform and opening to the outside world. And they rely on the fabricated truths they picked up in newspapers, especially in some Western newspapers, or in some of their media reports, and they thought that was the reality about China. And then they also react to the anti-China rhetoric, sometimes issued even by their president, or by governments, or by the members of their Congress, for example. So I think you can at least divide them up into these two categories. For the first category, those are paid to do so. I think we need to be merciless. We need to expose who are behind them, who bankroll them, who really provide the funding, and what is their ideological objective they want to achieve. Now, for the large majority of the people who don't know about China, and then they picked up gossips, misinformation, disinformation about China and spread them around, I think we need to give them better chances so that they can at least understand what China is, and they can see what China is rather than rely on fabricated misinformation about China.
Actually, Victor Gao, we know you are a lawyer, you are the businessman, and you are also a China specialist, and now you are getting very, very popular on media, not only on the newspaper, on the video, but also on the social media. But some people say you are a spokesperson for the Chinese government. Do you like this title?
Different people call me by different titles. Some of them even call me as the spokesperson of the CPC. That's completely wrong. I do not speak on behalf of the CPC or the Chinese government. You mentioned my education as a lawyer, and I went to Yale Law School. I graduated in 1993 with a JD degree. In that sense, I'm happy to be an alumni with Vice President J.D. Vance, who also went to Yale Law School, obtaining a JD degree 20 years after I graduated. I was class of 1993. Vice President J.D. Vance was class of 2013. I was trained as a lawyer, and I took great pride in my profession as a lawyer, as an investment banker, as a private equity practitioner, you name it. But I also did many other things in the government, as a security regulator, and in major corporations. So in a sense, I have multiple experience, institutions that gave me the solid background to take a position on major issues I encounter.
Yeah, so that's why when people talk about the China issues, China-related issues, especially about the politics, the foreign policy, and also about economy, you always give a lot of sharp answers and comments. But I'm also very active on social media, and I have received a lot of interviews from many leading media, also from the West. And for example, the Newsweek, France 24, and the Wall Street Journal. And sometimes I give the sharp answers, but sometimes I give more balanced perspective, balanced comments. So do you think we need to have more sharp voices or sharp comments, because that would attract a lot of attention on social media?
I think each occasion is different. I think in the normal sense of the word, we need to have very normal dialogue, chatting with each other, conversation, for example, and you do not need to raise your voice or use a higher pitch. However, when you are faced with sheer fabrication and very merciless attack on China,
you speak loud and clear.
You need to make your point very well known. Sometimes the interlocutors or anchor woman or anchor man, for example, even did not allow you to finish your sentence. They basically rattle off a long list of fabricated misinformation and use you as a prop, for example, just to back up their false accusation. That you need to really jump up and say, no, that's wrong. That's not the realities about China, and you need to tell the audience what exactly is the reality. Sometimes you need to contradict such misinformation or disinformation. Whether you are being sharp or not, that's another thing. I think you cannot just shy away and try to pretend as if these are not sheer attacks on China's reputation, on the dignity and the decency of the Chinese people. So each occasion is different, I think.
Do you think now in today's China, because we need more people to have a more comprehensive, more balanced, and more vivid understanding about China, do you think we need more people like you, like Victor Gao, to speak on the international arena?
Well, I think the more Chinese people can have an occasion to speak their mind, the better. Whether everyone need to be Victor Gao, that's another issue. I think many people can do much better jobs than I do. But each one is unique because each person is a combination of your previous academic background, your experiences, your exposure to other people, other important occasions in your life, for example. So everyone is unique in a sense. Even for the same issue, same topic, different people can come up with different analysis, different observation, and different conclusions. So the more people get involved, the better.
Victor Gao, we know you are a former diplomat also, and many people would like to know more about your personal stories. And people, for me, was in the major of the international relations and diplomacy, and we learned a lot about this story. So you were the interpreter for China's late leader Deng Xiaoping, and any memories that touched you the most, and how did you become this kind of job and to do the interpretation for him?
Well, I started college when I was very young. I started when I was 16 years old, and I graduated from college and went to a graduate program when I was only 19. And I finished up my graduate study when I was 21, and I joined the Chinese Foreign Ministry. And I started up as a government interpreter, and I had the great honor, great privilege of interpreting for Deng Xiaoping for more than 20 of his important meetings with foreign visitors. That was in the middle of the 1980s. In addition to working with Deng, I also worked with the Chinese Premier, Party Secretary General, Chinese President, and other very senior government, party and military leaders at that time. That gave me probably the most extraordinary exposure. At a very young age, you were having access to very important, sometimes top confidential meetings with foreign visitors, including involving China-US relations, China-other countries' relations. And I also got to travel with many Chinese leaders to overseas, to Australia, United States, Canada, Britain, New Zealand, you name it, so many countries. That probably was the highlight of my career before, in the 1980s. And I think I can always reflect back on what happened, especially involving my working experience with Deng Xiaoping. He was truly a man of great wisdom, great vision, and great courage. Now, for any particular issue, especially those issues which were very complicated and of high importance, rising up all the way up to the very top in the Chinese political system, he could really see through the nature of the issue and get to the bottom of the issue in a very fast way, refusing to be confused by, for example, sometimes the complexities of the issue or by the hidden nature, the true nature of the issue. Now, there are many examples. If we have more time, I think I'll be happy to chat with you about some of the very interesting experiences I had as an interpreter for Deng Xiaoping. Now, in the 1980s, interpreting for Deng Xiaoping was a very rare honor to start with. And working for Deng Xiaoping for more than 20 of his important meetings was truly a very rare and honor and great privilege.
When talking about China's diplomacy, one of the most important part is about China-US ties. From your career with Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping, and as an interpreter, you have witnessed the ups and downs of China-US ties. How do you see now the circumstances, the environment for the bilateral ties?
Well, given my working experience in the Chinese Foreign Ministry, as well as my educational experience at Yale and my subsequent working experience involving Morgan Stanley, CICC, you name it, I had the rare honor of having met and worked with almost all the US presidents or former presidents since Nixon, with two exceptions. I never met with President Gerald Ford, but he graduated from Yale Law School, so we communicated back and forth. I've never met with President Trump during his presidency 1.0 or now 2.0. I've never met with him. But for all the others, I met them as president or former president, or, for example, in the case of President Joe Biden, I met him when he was a senator during two of the very important visits to the US Capitol by the Chinese President Li Xiannian back in 1985, as well as by General Yang Shangkun back in 1987. So that gave me a lot of personal knowledge and a rare exposure to China-US exchanges at the very top, and also being a student at Yale University for 4 years, spending 4 years in New Haven, also gave me a lot of very solid experience about how the American people would love to get along with the Chinese people. That gave me a lot of confidence that the Chinese people and the American people are not enemies with each other. I think I've always been advocating China-US friendship, partially because of my 4 years spent in New Haven at Yale Law School as well as Yale Graduate School. So I think we need to look at China-US relations in a more balanced way, in a historical process, as well as based on people-to-people exchanges, and also very much steered by government-to-government relations, for example. There is not just one dimension to China-US relations. Some people in the United States claim that China is America's enemy. No, China is not America's enemy, and they worry that the Chinese people are hostile to the United States or to the American people. No, the Chinese people are very friendly towards the American people. We just want to get along with the United States. We will never become part of the United States, and the United States will never become part of China. We will remain different from each other, but that difference should actually be the strength of China-US relations rather than what will destroy China-US bilateral relations.